What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Brick Business Show, where we talk about business and Lego. And today I'm joined by Heather from Pixie's Brick Shop. Super excited to talk more BrickLink because it's been a little while for me. And also brick and mortar store. Heather, you have tons of really interesting stuff going on. You got to be pretty busy, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, pretty much from the moment I get up until I lay down in bed and pass out.
Love it. Love it. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated. I always like to start off with, the beginnings and where Lego started for the guest, right? So in your case, did you grow up on Lego? Like, when did Lego become important to you in general?
I actually didn't really start until a couple years ago when my son got old enough to start getting into Legos. My husband Jay he grew up with Legos and he loved them. So we went to a Lego store one day and Kai, he had just turned 5 at the time, and he finds this pirate ship, that creator expert one that was like 16 different bags, and I had to put it together. It took 2 days, I think. So he ended up going to his other dad's for the weekend and came back to this beautiful pirate ship, and it was so fun to put it together for him and see how excited he was about it that I was just like, all right, we got to buy more Lego now.
Wow. Wow. So a pirate ship is a great introduction. It's such a fan favorite. So you kind of like, you had never built anything before, and your very first set is a pirate ship. Yeah, I can see the instant love beginning. So you said this was just a couple of years ago. So kind of roughly how many years have you been, involved in the world of Lego in general?
Um, Really, that was the start. When was it? A year ago this month, actually, was when I started getting everything up and going on BrickLink and first started selling on there. BrickLink and Breakout too, actually. But yeah, for the first year before that, that was when we were just putting together Lego stuff for my son, and we made a little city for him. And of course, he destroyed it, so now we've got to put it back together.
So you jump really quickly into the business side of Lego, then it sounds like. So I guess, where did that come from? Where did you hear about uh, BrickLink and selling Lego parts online in general? It sounds like it was very fast after you just started kind of building for amusement.
Well, it was a little bit of luck and bad luck, and a lot of help on Jay's part, because he had actually thought about doing it before, I think a year or so before I'd even really gotten into it. And then back when COVID happened, I had lost my original job. I was able to find another job, but then I ended up getting a traumatic brain injury at that job, and it put me out of work for a while and out of everything. The only thing BrickLink actually kind of helped, because it was something I could do with not a lot of light, and just sit there and sort things and have something to focus my eyes on. And then Jay had already known about BrickLink, and he'd been watching Pop's Block Shop, so that kind of helped us figure out where to go from there. And he helped a lot when we first started out, and he's a little colorblind, so I had to help with the color. But yeah, that kind of led me to where, well, I have to make money somehow. If I can even contribute a little bit, then at least I can feel like me laying on the couch all day is gonna help something.
Yeah, yeah. I love that story because it's really impressive to see cases where selling Lego parts or sealed sets or whatever it is, minifigures, has given people kind of another avenue to build a business, especially when something hasn't gone right, and you're not the first person I've talked to who had unfortunate kind of fallout from COVID and lost a job, turned to Lego, and has built something really amazing. And as we can see here, if for anyone who's watching on YouTube, Heather behind her has her BrickLink drawers, and I love the look of a BrickLink store. It's always such an impressive kind of thing because the work that goes into it is massive. So So that's really, so you were watching Pop's Block Shop, and another shout out to Derek from Pop's Block Shop for anyone else who hasn't seen his content. If you're interested in BrickLink, what a place to go, right? Because he's so transparent. He shows everything he's doing, you know, these lengthy vlogs of kind of the whole behind the scenes of running a BrickLink store, including his numbers, right? And then showing kind of some of those things. Was that one of the things that you kind of focused on in the beginning, was like the numbers and the financials? Is this thing possible? Is it going to work? Looking at people like Derek's, you know, videos about his numbers and different things? Did you run spreadsheets in the beginning, or was that a concern at all?
In the beginning, I just kind of like floundered my way through.
Right.
It really helped looking to see how he did his part outs, and there was him, and there was Brick in the Bucket actually had some really good tutorials about how to use BrickLink and like how to get it actually uploaded. So I did use some of their videos as far as like how to get the parts in there. But I used how he did his drawers and numbered them and everything, and how many we started out thinking that we could just put like 3 different parts in one drawer, and then we realized pretty quickly that when you have a lot of one part, that's not going to work out. So we used his mostly for that, and then as it started growing and I got more, like several orders a week, then I was like, well, yeah, I probably do need to be like Pops and start keeping a record of like how much I'm doing in sales and shipping and all that, and make sure that I am actually making a profit. The biggest thing that Pop's Block Shop had was I just always call him Pops. I forget his name's Derek. But the biggest thing that he had that really helped out was how he the math that he used to decide if a set was really worth it or not. And that, I think, is one of the biggest things that's helped make it profitable so much for me.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm hearing that it is the kind of thing that, you know, it just comes over time. You're not going to get it perfect in the beginning. You know, over time, you will change the way you look at these things, and using as much information as we can get from places like YouTube will help give us the confidence to start. And then when you dip your toe in the water, then you can start to optimize and improve and different things like that. So since the beginning, you've been doing it full time, that it sounds like, right?
Pretty much. When I first started out, I still was. It wasn't very long after I had my accident, so full time for me was really just like maybe an hour or 2 a day. It was pretty much just whenever I actually felt good enough to get off the couch and be able to do something, I would do a little bit. Jay was a huge help with that. He worked, but he would come home and he'd help me out too, and he'd take care of the house. It was a really rough time. Once I finally got into a doctor and was able to start trying medicine, I was able to start like getting up a little bit more. Going to physical therapy helped too. So as I got more and more off the couch, it did really just become a full-time job.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear as well, by the way, about the accident. You're feeling kind of a lot better these days?
Yeah. I've had to come to terms with things that I can and can't do now, and the fact that I'm probably going to be on medicine the rest of my life. But definitely a big step up from how it was back. Like, yeah, it was a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy to think how much has even happened in just 1 year.
Yeah, clearly. Absolutely. And so in the beginning, was it completely part outs, or I guess even to this day, is it mostly part outs that you're doing for the BrickLink store? Do you do used lots and different things like that as well?
I did try out doing used minifigures in the BrickLink store at one point. The hardest part about that on BrickLink, at least, is that some people are very particular about having the right head type if it's a really older one, because some of them have like the hole stud, and some of them have the one where I can't remember the term for it. Open stud and solid stud. There we go. So if you put the wrong head that has the wrong stud on it, some of them weren't happy with that, and there's just very tiny differences, like Iron Man and Batman.
Uh-huh.
So it became really hard to kind of. I started having a lot of problems with the used minifigs, so I really just sell those in brick and mortar store now and stick most of my used stuff or my new stuff in BrickLink.
Yeah. Okay. Super excited to talk about the store, the brick and mortar store as well. By the way, seems like it is quite recent that you've opened that, but we'll jump into that in just a little bit. So, in terms of the sets that you're parting out and different things, how do you think about your sourcing strategy? Is it mostly like a 3 times part out value that you're looking for?
Yeah, I try to get it to where it's at least 2.5. Sometimes we'll take one that's a little bit lower if it has certain parts that I've sold a lot of. Like the ones that sell the biggest are probably dark blue gray. Pretty much anything dark blue gray is going to sell really quick. Then I've also noticed that orange is actually certain orange pieces are very popular because they're so rare. They're so hard to get a hold of. So sometimes I'm willing to go a little bit lower just to be able to get those parts that I know are going to sell anyways. But generally 2.5, definitely nothing less than 2. And we usually, and at one point, the biggest place to get them was looking down the clearance aisles at Walmart. But
Yeah.
sometimes even the ones that just come out can still be worth money. A lot of times that's usually the ones that have really rare minifigures in them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so is it when you're kind of during clearance season in Walmart and you're kind of looking at what's on the shelves and different things, you're literally pulling up the part out values on the fly, or do you kind of make a hit list before that and you know exactly what you're looking for and kind of you go looking for specific sets?
Most of the time we'll do it on the fly because we found that when I try to do it online and get it figured out when we get to the store, that set will either not be there or it's more expensive than it is online. And at one point the store here price matched their online, and then at one point they said they didn't, and then I heard later on that they did. I don't know. So it's much easier and much less time consuming actually to just go there and see what they have. After doing it so long, we kind of have an idea of what to look for, which ones will probably be worth parting out. So we'll just kind of stick to the basics, or if there's just like 1 or 2 of one of them that's there, and be like, all right, let's see if that one, because if there's just one, the next time we come, it's going to be gone. So we'll start there.
Right. Yeah. And do you need a certain quantity before you're going to want to part it out?
I've parted out just one set before. If it's really worth it and there's only one left, I'll go ahead and part it out. I really don't worry too much about it. Okay. Usually I like to have at least 3 of a set to part out because that gives you the most of that piece. Because with BrickLink, the biggest thing is that the more pieces that you have of that part, the more likely you are to sell it, because a lot of people like to buy their parts in bulk.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if they're mock builders and different things. And so outside of Walmart clearance, is there any other kind of major, without giving away your secrets, but is there any other major way that you like to source? Do you do like open box on eBay or any of that sort of stuff as well?
That's more of an in-store thing, honestly. The brick and mortar store. And since if I don't take it and open the box myself, I don't trust that it's not new. So and there have been times where like I've even went to other stores nearby that aren't necessarily Walmart, but they'll do like trade-ins for Lego or something, and they'll say yeah, this box is sealed brand new, and then you open it up and it's not. Mm-hmm. So I try to make sure that what I'm getting is genuinely new, and if it's not, then at least now I do have the store. So if it ends up being used, it's not like kind of wasted on it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. It is kind of difficult. And for anyone listening or watching, if you're buying sets and you see seals that are tampered and you're looking for a new set, which is what I do, like with Lego investing and holding them in sealed condition. If you see seals that look like they were opened at some point, you can't really sell it in new condition, because you don't know if someone took out the minifigures and different things like that. So just always kind of pay attention to the seals, I guess, is the quick learning. So you mentioned that, some of the colors sell, a lot better than others. And you also have, your certain multiple at either 2.5 times what you can pay for, or at the absolute least 2 times. Are there any other requirements that you have when you're sourcing the sets? Do you look for, or even maybe not requirements, but preferences? Like, do you look for minifigures kind of a lot and avoid something like a Lego art set that has no minifigures? Or is there any kind of anything else that comes to mind on things that you would avoid and things that you would look for when you're sourcing?
Yeah, really the other big thing is the minifigures. Then I have bought sets that didn't have minifigures in it, but usually that's for the colors. Um, I've been, I don't get Friends stuff just as or I didn't before, just because the Friends minifigures, they'll take a while to sell even if you do have a bulk of them. Um, so I try to stick to the minifigures, the ones that are really good. There's certain ones that you can tell like that have only been in a couple of sets. I like to focus on those too. Um, so yeah, biggest priority is how profitable it is, what kind of colored and unique pieces are in there, and the uniqueness and how many minifigs are in there too.
Yeah, got it. And then do you do any kind of analysis on the actual parts on BrickLink? Like, do you look at the market, how many have sold of that minifig and different things like that? Do you go to that level of depth, or do you really kind of care enough at that point or at that stage when you're initially sourcing to look deep at kind of some of the more rare parts or minifigs inside the box?
Initially, when I'm just trying to decide if I want to buy it or not, I won't. Once I actually get into where I'm parting it out and everything, I will kind of look at that. And sometimes I'll even use that for my basis of whether I'm putting it in BrickLink or selling it in store.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Um, I wanted to ask you about Brick L because I think I saw on your Instagram that you do have a Brick L store as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And for anybody who hasn't kind of heard of Brick L, it's basically like BrickLink. So you can sell parts, minifigs, and different things. They're big kind of a catalog database type website, marketplace where people can go and order specific Lego parts, very like BrickLink. So I wanted to ask you, I guess, how has your experience been between the two platforms? How does BrickL fit into your strategy? Um, how different is it from BrickLink? Is there any kind of things that you prefer about BrickL? Is there any things that you
Um,
don't like about it?
well, BrickLink is definitely more comprehensive as far as I've never tried to part out on BrickOwl, but I I like BrickLink better as far as parting out and being able to see my inventory, update inventory, and generally anything that requires a lot of more in-depthness. BrickLink's definitely better for. Breakout has actually been my money maker the last 2 months. BrickLink has slowed down really dramatically, but I'm still getting several orders a week just from Breakout. So generally, the Breakout stuff it is usually in smaller quantities, so smaller packages. But I also do have multiple repeat customers on Breakout, whereas with BrickLink, I might have 2 or 3. Most of the time, they're newer. It's always a new customer on there. So yeah, BrickLink is really good for just kind of getting the word out for myself and being able to check my inventory. I do use another software. It's called Brick Freedom, and that helps me to where I can just I can upload everything into BrickLink and then have it sync to Breakout, so I don't have to sit there and go between both of them and get it all figured out and everything. And then when I get orders in, I can go into Brick Freedom uh, and just part them all out right there and get them packaged and ready, and I don't have to like go in all kinds of different directions.
Yeah. So it kind of puts your BrickL store kind of on autopilot, right?
Yep, pretty much. It's definitely a helpful tool.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And so it's actually really interesting to hear the differences in terms of what you're experiencing with the buyers and the orders or order sizes being different and things like that. It's also interesting to hear that BrickLink is kind of, it's been coming down a little bit in terms of volume the last couple of months and BrickL hasn't. Do you do any eBay?
I tried when I first started. I started out with a lot of minifigures because that was the easiest thing for me to do and get ready and everything. I had my store open. I had a bunch of minifigs up there. I even had a couple people buy like the first, second day, and then after 2 days, eBay shut me down and said I did something that got me permanently banned. Nothing I did helped with that. I couldn't get them to stop, so I just kind of gave up on that front. But they were also taking a good portion of the profit anyways. So when I compared how much I was able to sell it for on eBay versus BrickLink, it really wasn't that much profit I was making because of everything they were taking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There is a significant difference in fee between eBay and BrickLink. I what's the is the Brickel fee more close to BrickLink? Like kind of just a couple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, I think BrickLink is 3%, and I think Breakout is like 2.5.
Wow.
They're somewhere really close together there.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're very spoiled on those two platforms. I sell on Amazon, which is higher even than eBay, and
Oh
yeah, it's
man.
pretty substantial. Okay, so I wanted to ask you just kind of broadly, what's a day in the life? Running a BrickLink store for you. Do you have a certain kind of a structure to your day that you want to try and kind of live by? Do you try to do certain things in the mornings, and kind of broadly, how does your day flow?
Um, I say a lot of it does kind of depend on what I'm doing here at the store too. But as far as BrickLink, even before the brick and mortar, really was just the first thing I would always do is check for what kind of orders I got in and get those packaged and ready, because that it can definitely be time consuming, especially if you have a lot of them. And I always try to get them out as quickly as I can. That way, I'm not packaging them all, and if there's a lot of packages, I might have to wait until the next day to take them to the post office, but I usually try to pack and ship out the same day that I get them in, if possible, and at least the next day after. Um, Once I've gotten the packages done, then I check through, see what kind of things I have to part out. I have to kind of base it around like when my son gets out of school too and everything. So that's when I'll get my table out and get all my drawers put out and just part out as much as I can. Usually it's really a full day to make packages, part out, and then get it into the system.
Yeah, and more of the weight of the day is probably the part out stuff, right? Over
Yeah,
the other.
especially there was the biggest one I did. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was, I think, 5,000 pieces. It was the Ninjago big temple thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it took like at least 3, maybe 4 days to fully part out, and then I ended up having to get another software. I think it's called Brick Store,
yeah.
just because I found out after several attempts that it was just such a large part out that BrickLink could not accept it. So I
Hmm.
had to go to another one and fill out everything there, part it out through there, and then take it in pieces and upload it into BrickLink in several different pieces.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was horrible.
I had heard those horror stories of large part outs, and with BrickLink, it just times out
Yeah,
sometimes, because when you go to that part out on BrickLink, it just has the entire inventory on one page, and as you're working through it and kind of updating, each of the lots, it could take a long time, and then it's just timed out by the time you get to the end. Brick Store is a piece of software that you install directly to your computer, so it's offline. You don't have these problems. Um, so that's a really good kind of an example as to, because I was going to ask you about your part out process, and like how do you kind of think about parting out in general, and because a lot of BrickLink sellers have different ways that they approach it, and some people use kind of cups, and some people use like part out directly into drawers, and there's kind of all sorts of creative stuff that people have come up with barcode scanners and things like that. When it comes to something like a large set like Ninjago City Gardens, how did you approach that? Like, how did you even have enough space physically to part out that set? Did you do it by color? Did you do it kind of bag by bag, or how did it all flow?
So the way I usually approach it, and space is interesting with that one. The way I usually try to approach it is I'll take one bag at a time. I have these yellow sorting trays that we got from Harbor Freight. I think they're usually used to like put nails in or something. I don't remember, but yeah, there's just I call them my sorting trays, and I've got 5 of them right now, so I'll divide them up and I'll put a bag in each tray. And then I try to go from there by color, and I'll try and leave myself a gap because I know I'm going to have a lot of black and a lot of dark gray, and then just kind of move it around as I need to. It's easier for me that way because that way you're not just like putting it all in a giant pile and then hoping for the best. And then when I'm sorting on BrickLink to start putting it into the system, it's by color anyways. So it's helpful to just start from the black and then go down, see what I need to put into my inventory, what I've already got. With that one in particular, I had a table at the house. I didn't bring it up here, but at the house I have a huge gaming computer desk. So I cleared the whole thing off and I was putting little drawers everywhere I could find space, and sometimes I was having to sideways stack the drawers on top of each other. I think at one point I ended up having to put some on a chair.
Wow.
it was oh man. Yeah, I ran out of drawers at one point. That was what was helpful about Brick Store with being able to do it in pieces. That way I could go ahead and put it into one of my drawers that I had, and if I already had the part, I could just add it to what I already had in another drawer and then just use that for another. Oh man, it gets interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Brick Store, it kind of gives you the ability to basically break up the whole process and actually put away some of the drawers after you've kind of done a phase of it. Is that right?
Yeah, and you can do it with BrickLink because when it shows up after you put in what set you're parting out and it shows all the parts in it, it will tell you that you already have this one in your inventory, and you can click on inventory details to find it. The biggest problem with it though is if you're using BrickLink like that and you have to do something before you get finished with your whole part out, then you can lose all that progress too, and then you have to go find where you put things. And make sure that you have the right number in it, because there have been rare occasions where the amount of parts I actually got wasn't the right ones, or I'll go back later and find that there was one tiny difference and I didn't separate them right, so then you've got to go track it down. So Brick Store is a lot easier if you think that it's going to take you multiple days to get something done, to be able to just leave that up, put what drawer you're putting something in, and then be able to come back to it and know exactly where all of your stuff is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So in the last year since you started the BrickLink store, when it comes to parting out, are there any changes that you made over time, or any kind of improvements that you made over time that come to mind? Anything that you wish you knew at the beginning to improve your processes? What kind of improvements have you made today that you didn't have when you first started?
One thing that we did eventually add was the bigger drawers. I started out with just the little ones because I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to get a whole lot of one part anytime soon. Quickly found out that was not the case, especially when we got the bigger sets that have like 40 of the same part. So I had to learn about using multiple drawers. Stickers were also hard. I was trying to find good places to put stickers in drawers where they weren't getting messed up. So just recently, actually, I realized, why don't I just get a binder with the little sheet protectors and put them in that? And it was like, that's an amazing thing. Why did I not think of this a year ago? And I have shoe bins. I finally kind of gotten them emptied out as I got more of the bigger drawers to be able to put them in. The biggest thing really was the little accessories and windows, the things that can scratch real easily. I made the mistake earlier on of putting the easily scratched windows and things in with other pieces, and then they're scratched up and I can't really sell them. So now I try to divide them into something by themselves, or at least somewhere where they're going to be nice and snugged in, so I don't have to worry about that. And then I like to have the accessories divided up too. So I think it was actually something we even saw on Derek's YouTube, where he had them in the tool trays that um, handyman and carpenters will use to sort their nails, different nails into. So we ended up getting some of those, and that worked amazing for the little accessories and these tiny little parts that are going to get lost in everything else.
It's so fascinating to listen to. Again, it comes down to creativity and the different ways to organize the inventory. I think everybody who's listening to this needs to pause if you are a BrickLink seller, and make sure that you have one of those binders for your stickers, because it is absolutely like the hands down best way that you could ever store something like your stickers. In terms of the space saving, the amount of stickers you could put into a binder versus if you were trying to put them in drawers in your regular kind of parts inventory system. That's great. So I think that's a really good tip. So how has the store grown since then, right? Because like in terms of physically an actual space, because this is definitely one of the big challenges. It's probably one of the things that stop a lot of people from even ever trying BrickLink is, I don't have enough space in my home to kind of do these large part outs, or I don't have enough space to put drawers on the wall. Did you have a kind of a spare room dedicated to it in the beginning before you moved things to the brick and mortar store? How did that all play out for you in terms of physical space?
So that definitely is a challenge. We had a small room upstairs, and the biggest thing is it did have 4 windows, so there wasn't a gigantic amount of space in there. We did have I had shelving racks that I had some of my anything that I wanted to part out up there, anything I wanted to hold on to. So I had a little section for that, and the shipping supplies up there. And then really did have to get kind of creative with it on starting as close to a corner as you could, and then kind of wrapping around, going below the window, and then coming back up. And then at one point it got to where we actually had to build a piece of plywood out of the wall to add more storage to. So we got a little lucky with being able to come up here before it took over the entire room, because our next question was going to be, do we need to downgrade my giant desk into a tiny one to put more drawers up on the walls?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess like you were kind of looking that you could allocate an entire room to it, but at the same time, it didn't give you everything that you needed. And eventually you expanded into a brick and mortar store. So I'd love to kind of start looking into or talking a little bit about that decision. What kind of gave you the idea to open a brick and mortar store? Where did that come from initially?
That was another of Jay's dreams. He always wanted to have a toy store, and he had actually done conventions in the past where he sold collectible toys and things like that. So he was working on his own business, and the we were starting to come out of COVID. Everything was picking up. Our downtown, there's a lot of businesses starting to move in. So we were like, well, if we don't do this now, then it's not ever going to happen. So we just kind of did what we always do and dove right in and hoped for the best. And we got lucky. We found a really nice place that not a lot of people were really interested in, because the floors were so bad. And since the landlord knew that, she was like, I will fix the floors for you. And we ended up getting really lucky with that, because it ended up being pretty expensive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so what kind of place are you in? Is it like inside a mall, or what kind of retail space is it?
We have our own space. It's technically a suite because it used to be one big building. Depending on who you talk to in town, the older people that have been here a while call it the old Belks building, because this is where Belks used to be. It until recently was probate court, so we still get people coming and asking where court is. And so we have to point them in the right direction. But they did divide it into 3 separate areas. So there are 2 businesses within the building, but each of us has our own storefront.
Okay. Well, and is it like right downtown, or is it on the outskirts?
Oh, it's right downtown.
Amazing. So what kind of what process was that like for you in terms of finding that space? Like, did you have to look at a lot of different spaces? Did you have something in mind that you were aiming for?
Well, even before we really got serious about it, we always walked downtown. Like even during COVID, we tried to walk downtown just to get out of the house, and so we'd see all the places that were up for sale or for rent, and we'd kind of look into them and get an idea of what could we do if we had this space. So we already
Hmm.
had a couple of places selected that we wanted to try. The favorite one was already taken by the time we got to where we were actually wanting to go through with it. So this was kind of like our second one. Like this is a really good space. It's really nice and big. There's just a couple things other than the floors that we really needed to do with it. So we wanted something that wasn't going to be a huge maintenance thing for us either. So we
Yeah.
kind of lucked out on being able to get this one.
Yeah, you had to jump on it fast. The first
Yeah.
one's gone. We got to take it. Yeah, yeah, it's such a fascinating thing to me. The like the brick and mortar world, because I know I would absolutely love to do it. I would love to run a physical Lego store. I do it too much traveling and different things. There's reasons why I don't feel like I could do it, but I would love it. And so I guess it was a really exciting time, but also quite a scary time, right? Because you obviously were making an investment in something that is kind of hard to know if it's going to work, right? Because we talk about how BrickLink, you can see other people's success on YouTube and you can see their numbers in some cases. With a brick and mortar toy store, even if you could see people's numbers, if it's in a different city, it's not going to be, it's not going to really be a good forecast as to what you might be able to achieve in your city. It's very, very difficult to be able to gauge the likelihood of success in something like that. So I guess what was that like for you? How did you feel coming up to that? Was it scary or more exciting? What was your thought process going into it?
It was absolutely terrifying. Like we were very excited about it too, but yeah, it was and even just opening a brick and mortar store in general, trying to get financing as a small business, and especially when you literally just start out, it's really hard to do. So every everything basically felt like it was very last minute. Like, oh, we finally got the funding. Okay, let's do this part. Okay, we need some more funding. Oh, thank God! Right when we needed it, we got more. So it was kind of like just having to break it down into steps and pieces of, all right, this is the most important thing we have to do now. And yeah, it is really hard to gauge like how well you're going to do, especially because there's not a lot of stores that are like what we're trying to do, because it's not just Lego, or a lot of places around here are just like card game places. So we've got Lego, we've got toys, we've got collectibles, comics, trading card games, Dungeons and Dragons. So we tried to make it. We wanted it to be somewhere where anyone that wanted to come could come and have fun and enjoy themselves, because that was one of the biggest things that York was lacking. There's a lot of kids that were walking around just and had nowhere to go, and a lot of the people that do come in even now will be like, this is such a great place, I had nowhere else to go, I had nothing else to do. And even the parents like, yeah, I needed somewhere for my kids to go and just have fun with other kids. So it ended up working out really well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. And I really think it's super important, to make a toy store into a place where people are excited to go, and just spend time, in order to compete with e-commerce, right, and compete with Amazon. The only reason people are not going to Amazon is because they want to physically hold the stuff, and they want an experience, or they want to talk to people who are nerding out about the thing that they love with them, which is super important. So you mentioned there's a handful of different things that you're stocking in the store. um I guess, like, so was it always the vision for the store to not be Lego, or was there kind of a point where you started to pivot and realized, okay, we have actually have opportunity to bring in, trading card games and different kind of things? What was the vision originally, and have you stuck with that, or did you pivot for an opportunity?
The vision was actually really a combination of me and Jay. Jay's the one that's really big into the collectibles and the comics. It was things that he grew up with. It was something he'd already had experience with going to the different cons and selling them. I wanted, my biggest thing with toys is what would my child want? Like, what kinds of things would I want to go to a toy store to find? In York, there's really the only other place to go for toys is Walmart. So Walmart's good, but there's certain things that they don't have that I wish that they would have, like things that are more local, better made toys that aren't just like plastic and that's going to break and after a couple times of him playing. Um, he has a lot of different delays and things, so we've had to with a speech therapist and an early interventionist, we've had to do a lot of like sensory kinds of things, and that's not something that you can just go find at Walmart. And even his therapist would be like, yeah, I have to go to Amazon to buy everything that I need for my kids because I need certain things that's really going to help them with lights and sounds and textures and things like that. And so I wanted somewhere where if you needed something, we'd have it. If we don't have it, you can tell us and I can try and get it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that sounds fantastic service that again will bring repeat customers and people coming in. What are some of the brands in terms of the toys that you stock? Do you do things like Funko Pops and Barbie and some of those real popular brands?
Looking into hopefully being able to get Barbie. We just got Hasbro, but we haven't quite gotten there yet because we've been more focused on the trading card games. There's, I think it's called Fun Little Toys. They have these little flashing octopuses that the little kids can put in the bath with them, and that's been one of our biggest sellers actually. But yeah, we have Lego. We do have some Hasbro and Mattel that we've gotten from other distributors. As far as trading card games, we got Magic, Pokemon, Dungeons and Dragons. We've got Chessex for dice. Just starting getting some My Hero Academia stuff, trading cards in. Board games, tabletop games. Yeah, we do have board games. There's Calliope, Fireside Games, Talking Table, and we actually just got Asmodee as well. So we're in their bestseller program. We have their top 40 bestsellers just got put into our store yesterday, actually.
Amazing.
One of the brands, it's not really a popular one, but as far as our store, it's really popular. Well, actually, Barrington is popular. We've got that one. But there's one called Khalid Medieval. They're from Spain. And they have, it's all Renaissance mace, weaponry. So like axes and maces and swords. And they even have shields and costumes and everything. And the little kids go crazy over it. So, and we have it set up to where it's interactive. So kids can actually come in and play with some of the toys. And then every time they play with those, they're like, Mom, we got to get this.
Oh, that's so fantastic. I love it. And what is the approach for the Lego that you stock? Is it new items or do you also sell used items?
We actually do both. We were able to get a distributor for Lego for the new stuff. So we keep that separated from all the BrickLink and BrickOut because that's just the contract we have. So all of our new stuff does go out there. And then we also have used from where we've gotten it from usually some places like Goodwill online. We can buy it in bulk. We'll get it all cleaned out, and we try to we'll take out as much of the minifigure stuff that we can find. And we have a big bin where kids can just go through, and even adults too. Actually, you can just sort through what's out there, pick pieces that you need, fill a bag up, and pay for it, and then the pieces of minifigures that we find we'll see what kind of like if it's a specific head, we'll look into like what body and everything it goes to, and we've actually found a lot of used minifigures, and we'll sell those separately too.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, kind of have like a tray of minifigures, like separately near the register or something like that.
Yes.
Fantastic. And do you take trade-ins or anything like that for Lego?
Yeah, we do trade in for a lot of different things. Lego and trading card games are the biggest trade-ins right now. But yeah, we've had a couple people come and usually we'll just have them bring it in. We'll kind of take a look at it to see how much we might be able to sell it for. We do have a couple of like fully completed sets that have been done. Our display windows actually, my husband made a castle by himself from some of the used Lego that we've gotten in.
Like a uniquely designed one.
Yep.
Oh wow, I love it.
Yeah, he's creative like that.
Yeah, that's great. So in terms of comparison between your Lego products and the other stuff that you're selling, is Lego kind of the bestseller brand of items that you stock in general, or kind of are there other items that are selling better than Lego in general?
There's other stuff that's actually selling better. Lego is starting to pick up. We This is actually, what's today? Yeah, so in a couple of days, it'll actually be 4 months since we've been open. So
Right.
we're starting to finally get a lot of these people coming in and realizing who we are. So there's been a couple of sets that have already sold out, and I think like two or three of them have been Star Wars. So certain ones are selling out really quickly. I sold out of the Horizon Zero Dawn tall neck
Yeah.
not long after I got it, and I
Mhm.
cannot get it back in stock. So it's not one of the best sellers that we have right now, but more people are starting to realize what we have. I will say the used Lego is actually probably one of the most popular things.
Mm.
And whenever people come in and just see, like I said, even the adults, they'll come in and just see this giant thing of Legos, and they're just like so excited about it. And so at first they'll just start playing with it. And we have a little Lego table for kids, and they'll play there, and they're like, well, why don't we just go ahead and grab a bag?
Why not? Love it. Yeah, and in terms of the like getting set up with the distributors, it sounds like that is like obviously one of the big challenges for people setting up like a brick and mortar store. I guess, how has that process been for you? Has it been a total headache? Are there certain ones that are just kind of you just can't get in with, and there's massive restrictions on? They kind of only work with certain size stores and different things like that.
There are certain ones. When we originally started, we were trying to get in with Hasbro, but Hasbro and Mattel are really hard to try and like figure out how to get into until you've been open for a little bit, and you've got some places you've just got to find the right website that you're needing. Because sometimes if you go to the company's website, they don't actually have the wholesale stuff there, but then you can find another website that actually talks about wholesale. Lego was really hard to get because I actually had to have my store open before I could even apply to get it. So that was interesting, and I was really glad that I didn't base everything off of having a bunch of Lego starting out. One of the biggest things is having to meet certain minimums before you could order. One or two of them have it to where you have to have a certain minimum just to get like free shipping. So the biggest thing is really trying to balance out like what kind of budget you want to do for each place, depending on what kind of minimums you have, your shipping, and different things like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the biggest headaches with it.
So having to be open before you can get Lego is again a scary thing, because now you're kind of asking yourself, if I can't get this, I gotta source from Walmart and try to make things work that way. So is it Lego Direct that you're partnered with, or is it Toy House or one of the kind of distributors?
It's Toy House.
Right. And do they have any restrictions um, on you needing to stock other brands in the store before they will partner with you? Because I've heard that there are kind of some, like maybe not with Toy House, but with Lego Direct, they don't want you to just be a Lego resale store. They want you to be a toy store before they'll partner with you. Did you have any questions about other types of brands you're going to be stocking and different things like that?
They did ask about what other brands, what other kinds of toys and things that we were going to be selling. They do put in their contract where anything that you get from them you can't put in and you can't use for BrickLink, BrickOwl, or eBay, anything like that. So I'm very meticulous about keeping all of that separate from the online business. But yeah, they wanted. Luckily, they didn't want you didn't have to be open for like a certain amount of time. You just had to at least be open. And since we already had some other brands that we were able to go ahead and get in and get set up, we did a soft opening where we had like half of our store filled up. And there
Right.
was a big event going on downtown called Silver in the City, where a bunch of people with their Airstreams come and just show off their Airstreams. Uh, so we were able to do our soft opening and take pictures of us actually being open and being like this. And they also wanted pictures of like, they want your store. They want to see like you have actually product on your shelves. They want you to take a picture of like where specifically in your store you're going to put it. You got to talk about how you're going to like get it out there that you're selling Lego, how you're going to like brand it, make it look. So many
Right.
questions about how you are going to sell the product.
Yeah. Before you probably even know the answer to the questions,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna put it on this shelf, I guess. I don't know. Um,
This shelf looks pretty.
yeah, yeah. It's very meticulous. And I did want to ask you about that process in terms of the marketing of this, and you're opening a store and luckily it sounded like there was a perfect time for you to do a soft opening. But did you do anything else in terms of getting the word out? Did you kind of look at social media or try to talk to the newspapers or anything at all like that? How have you been thinking about getting the word out?
We did, our town does a grand opening thing for pretty much anyone who asks for it. And since I'm also in Taekwondo, which is right next door, um, Master Robin was just coming up on her 1 year anniversary of being open. So I was like, well, that's perfect. And then the guy in the back had actually just opened up the beginning of April and we opened up at the end. So we're like, well, let's just do this huge building grand opening thing. We did try to get like news people here, but since COVID, apparently a lot of them have had issues where they've been so swamped and had so few people working, they weren't able to come out. But they did still. We had a big ribbon. Some of the kids from Taekwondo had come out too. Then the mayor himself was there. He talked about the stores, let us introduce our own places and everything. And they recorded it themselves and put it on their Facebook page. And then just the store owners in downtown are a big community, really. So they I went to all of their different stores and I'd be like, hey, I have a flyer and some business cards. Can you take them? And they're like, yeah, yeah. So like everyone had a flyer for us put up in their window. And we had one time when we were here late and painting, we had dominoes delivered and the delivery guy walked in and he was just like so amazed at what we were doing. He took a bunch of flyers and every time he would deliver a pizza, he would give them a flyer too. And he's one of our DMs for Dungeons and Dragons, and then I DM a game so that he can play too. And so yeah, just the people in town in general are just word of mouth. It's the best way of getting us out there.
Word of mouth and pizza guy with flyers. That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Anybody who is thinking about opening a store, that's what you got to do. You get in with the pizza guys. It's brilliant. Um,
Yeah, he's
Amazing.
actually still in the store phone's contacts as Pizza Guy. I know his name, but I still like to call him Pizza Guy, and he loves it.
I love it too. I think it's great. So now, now that you have the brick and mortar store and it's in full swing, and you also are still running a BrickLink store, BrickLink, BrickL. How is your day in the life today? Like how have things changed? How have you fit the brick and mortar store into your kind of day? Do you still look at online orders in the morning and then turn your attention to the brick and mortar? Like how do you balance everything?
Um, very delicately. so, so the brick and mortar store opens at 10. And we're closed Sundays and Mondays because downtown has this thing where they're always closed Sundays and Mondays. They're hopefully maybe next summer we can try and be open some Sundays now once we get customer base, be like, hey, yeah, we're open. Um, so we're closed Sunday, Mondays. That helps. So then I can actually be home and taking care of my house a little bit and paying attention to the dog every now and then. And then I'll come up here if I have a lot of orders. I'll try and come up here before 10 o'clock. I'll get the store open, everything turned on. Then I'll go back, get all my orders taken care of online. There's a post box right nearby, so I could just pack them all up and then just go over there, put them in the mailbox. I'm friends with the mail lady too, so she's the one that actually told me, "Oh, yeah, just go put it over there. I check it every day." So, so I try and get that done immediately, so I know it's going to get shipped out that day, and then do stuff at the store. I do have a Facebook and Instagram page for the brick and mortar store itself. So next thing I really do is I have to go through and see what posts I need to put up, and I try to schedule them at least a week ahead of time if I can. Checking inventory, seeing what's out of stock, low stock, where I need to, which distributor I need to go to get it. So by the time it's about 1 o'clock is when I finally start getting all my basics done with both stores, and then I get like 30 minutes to eat before I have to go get my child from school. Then I have a little bit of time to, there's always customers coming in and out, so that kind of prolongs the other things too. But sales, it's always nice, and I like to sit and talk to some of them, like you said, having that interaction and hearing about what they like. And it's like, yeah, if I don't have it, I would like to have something that I know is going to sell and that people around here are like. The kids are always amazing. I had one of them tell me that this was better than Toys R Us, so that was huge compliment. Like, yes, did my job.
That's fantastic.
But also, I practice and help teach Taekwondo as well. So by 4 or 5 o'clock, I'm over there, and Jay's having to take over the store for me.
Right. And I don't think you mentioned parting out, right?
Yeah, that I try to do at least twice a week, at least once a week if I can. It really depends on how busy we are. So Tuesday through Thursday are the days that I try to get that done. When I Fridays and Saturdays, it's just going to be so busy, and I'm not going to get it done. So if I set aside time Tuesday through Thursday and clear off our giant table back here, that's when I try to get my part outs done.
Yeah. Do you feel that, with obviously less focus on part out, it's going to be hard to grow the BrickLink store the same way that you've grown it for the last year in terms of at the same pace? Has the growth slowed a little bit? Do you mind because the brick and mortar is going so well? Are you reprioritizing a little bit away from BrickLink and more toward the store? How are you kind of thinking about continuing to grow the BrickLink store with the brick and mortar being, so time intensive?
It did definitely slow down a huge bit when we first got the brick and mortar store going, just because I did have to put so much attention into it and getting it up and running. It's gotten to the point where it's starting to balance itself out. And of course, there's always probably going to be times where I'm going to have to give the brick and mortar store more focus than BrickLink, just because with Magic, the Dominaria United pre-release is coming out, so I've been having to do a lot with getting the store ready for that. And then we've got Summerfest here in York this Saturday, so it's a huge problem with balancing. But now that I've started getting things in like a schedule of when to do stuff when. It's helped out with freeing up more time for me to focus back into BrickLink. And now that I've been able to do that and start parting out more often, it's slowly but surely the sales are starting to increase again.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the long-term vision, you're still feeling good that you can continue to, you'll grow both concurrently, and, both will go well. You don't feel like if brick and mortar goes really, really well, maybe you'll turn attention away from BrickLink or anything like that?
At this point, I really would like to try and still do both of them. I don't know. BrickLink really has just kind of become a comfort for me too. Just it's one of those things where, because I still do get bad days with my head, so it's one of those things where even if I don't feel up to doing anything else, I can still kind of at least relax while I'm doing that. Just sit in a chair and do some part out.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Great. Okay. I definitely wanted to just kind of quickly cover, and we'll start to close things out. But I wanted to cover, in general, since you started both businesses, and we can it's kind of two answers really, BrickLink and brick and mortar. what are some of the things that you wish you knew in the beginning? You know, if you were starting right now, you were watching this video and you're thinking about starting a BrickLink store, you know, what should you watch out for? What should you kind of just pay attention to a little more? What do you wish that you watched out for in the start? And same question for starting a brick and mortar toy store.
It's kind of a hard one. I guess with as far as BrickLink, I wish I would have done a little bit more research into it before I just kind of dove into it. So, you know, I did have Derek's channel, but then I also had there were some things that he didn't really go through, or it might have just been in an older video that I just didn't have the patience to try and find. So there was a lot of having to look through YouTube and Google and things like that to try and find answers to that I didn't think that I would need. So really the biggest thing was just I should have done a little bit more research into how to use BrickLink and Brickout, and then also like with sales and like how do other people usually find theirs. How the biggest thing, and sometimes still I wonder, like, how do you know when a sale is about to happen? Because sometimes on YouTube videos they're like, yeah, Walmart's gonna have a sale today, and I'm like, how did you know that? And because usually by the time I get to Walmart, other people already knew about the sale. So that's still a good thing to know as far as like getting the BrickLink store going.
Yep.
Brick and mortar. I researched as much as I could for it, but it's one of those things that you don't really know what you're going to get into until you actually go for it. So I guess really the biggest thing that I wish I would have known is how much each thing, the popularity of each kind of brand and different things like that. I didn't get a huge response starting out about what kind of products and things that people would like to have. So we got lucky in the sense that I started small with a little bit of everything and then just grew the things that were popular. But had I known that one of our biggest sellers was going to be like trading card games and Pokemon, I would have put more money into that than some other things. So knowing your market really in both places is the biggest key to making sure you're successful.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And last question for me is, what are you excited about for the future of your business? Like when you think about 12 months, 24 months from now, what are some of the things that you're kind of really looking forward to?
Really, you know, self-sufficiency definitely would be great. It'd be nice to be able to have at least one employee so I can take a day off every now and then. But I guess honestly, the most exciting part as far as the brick and mortar is how many kids we're starting to get in and seeing them not have to just roam around the streets, having somewhere for them to actually come and talk to other people who are as nerdy or geeky as they are. That's the biggest part that makes me smile with the brick and mortar store is just seeing how much fun they're having. And with BrickLink, that's really kind of like my source of income and another of my kind of happy places. So with BrickLink, I just want it to be where it's profitable enough for me to continue being able to buy for it and part out, but also be able to pay myself as well.
Amazing. Amazing. So much exciting stuff going on the horizon. I absolutely love it. Well, thank you so much again, Heather, for taking your time, for being here. Where is your store located?
It's in York, South Carolina. It's in downtown York.
Okay, so if anybody is in York, South Carolina, make sure you stop in at Pixie's Brick Shop. Is that the name of your brick and mortar as well?
It's called Pixie's Keep Toys and Games.
There you go. So make sure you stop in and say hi, check out the store and Pixie's Brick Shop on BrickLink. So if you need parts, that's where to go. Thank you so much again for your time. Much appreciated. I'm going to have another one of these coming up in the next couple of weeks. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to learn more about bricks and business. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I'm Shane from brickbucks.net, and I will see you in the next one.